Nickelodeon Kart Racers is supposed to be made of a successor to Nicktoons Racing, which really didn't do very well. When it comes to Nick Kart Racers, it feels like it's about to eat its own thing to become a spiritual successor to Nicktoons Racing, except it's much more better. Developed by Bamtan Games and published by Game Mill Entertainment, and they it was released back in 2018. It only launched only to get unfavorable reviews. Why is this? Well, according to the press, Nintendo Life gave the game a 3 out of 10, criticizing for the roster size, which only consists of 2 to 4 characters from 4 different shows, and lacked characters from other popular Nickelodeon shows such as The Fairly Odd Parents, Invader Zim, Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, Avatar, and The Loud House. They even criticized the game for the lack of voice acting. Even PlayStation Lifestyle, giving the game a 5.5 out of 10. It felt more like a Nicktoons Racing spiritual successor, but unfortunately it has to start out small. However, with this is while the game seemed to have a few players playing, Game Mill and Bamtan Games and Nickelodeon were not happy at the negative feedback that they were receiving. They decided to try again. So they decided to expand the character roster and more by doing a sequel to Nick Kart Racers 1. This would ultimately start to improve upon the spiritual successor to Nicktoons Racing. Introducing Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix. Now to be honest here, what do I think about Nick Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix? It feels like a much more good and decent improvement. But why is this? Let's look at the gameplay. The core gameplay though. For the core gameplay, Grand Prix features a selection of 30 playable racers, actually much more bigger than its predecessor, consisting of characters from 12 different Nicktoons, and they introduced us to the real life actress JoJo Siwa. Okay, why was it decided to add JoJo Siwa to the lineup? I don't know. Each character has different gameplay statistics, such as top speed and handling, which can be further altered by customizing their kart with unlockable vehicle parts. Each character has a signature kart, similar to Mario Kart DS. Except the character only has one specific signature kart. So you can't change the kart bodies at all. So you cannot have the characters have different cards though. So they only have one card. Only one character gets one card, and that was it. Pretty much limited, but content wise, I do like the selection of certain characters having different cards. Like SpongeBob has the boatmobile has a boatmobile. Oh, even Patrick has a boatmobile, but it was better. I believe it was been seen from one of the SpongeBob SquarePants episodes where SpongeBob failed his boating test again. It's no surprise. Seriously, SpongeBob always fails, all the time. I mean, what? What is it that he has to fail all the time? As well as introducing us pit crew characters. There are 70 non-playable pit crew characters based on these shows, made up of 20 chiefs and 50 crews, with players able to equip one chief and 2 crew members before each race. Chief characters will give the player an additional ability they can activate at any time during a race, such as a sudden speed boost or temporary shield. Each use requires players to first fill up a slime meter by driving through slime or collecting slime tokens on the track. Now the slime tokens is a lot very similar to one of Mario Kart's games installments featuring their own coins. So much like Mario Kart 7 and 8, or by extent Mario Kart Super Circuit and Super Mario Kart, you're able to collect only 10 coins. And the 10 coins only increase your overall top speed. You still collect more coins along the way. Crew characters grant abilities that are automatically activated under specific certain circumstances, such as giving the player a speed boost after they are struck by an item or obstacle, or collected a specific item from item containers, or item eggs, I believe. Once used, these abilities have a cooldown period and cannot be activated again until a certain amount of time has passed. The game includes 28 racetracks based on different locations from the represented shows, including 4 remastered tracks from its predecessor, and 2 battle arenas based on Double Dare and the Kids' Choice Awards. Each track features slime sources to recharge cheap abilities, speed boosters to gain an extra burst of speed, containers with items that can be used to hinder opponents, and shortcuts which often require more skill play to access. Players can also trigger additional speed boosts during the race by constantly drifting around in turns or performing tricks. When launching off jumps, players can choose between 4 speed classes for races, ranging from slow to insane. This is basically the engine classes: 50cc, 100cc, 150cc, and 200cc. And this also can be seen as the difficulty. The game features a single-player Grand Prix mode, which challenges players to complete sequences of 4 races, with highest overall rank, a time trial mode for players to complete a lap on each track in the shortest time possible, and a challenge mode consisting of 42 preset scenarios which the player must complete. Players can unlock new characters, pit crew, and vehicle parts by winning every Grand Prix in each speed class, and completing every challenge. Additional vehicle parts can be purchased from the in-game garage by spending slime tokens, which can be obtained through races. A total of 80 vehicle parts can be unlocked. The game also supports local multiplayer for up to 4 players, as well as an online multiplayer mode for up to 8 players. A feature that was not in its predecessor, which was kind of missing. Now the engine that the second game is running on is still in the Vector engine, which is the Vector unit. You could tell when you see the BAM10 Games logo, and underneath it says Vector unit, meaning they are still using the Vector engine. This would be the last game to. This would be the final game in the Vector engine before they switched to Unreal Engine 4, which proven that they should have to switch to different game engines as they want to do some more improvements to Nickelodeon Kart Racers. In any case, what makes Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix much more great than the first game and the third game? Let's talk about the AI. Regarding the AI in the second game feels much more balanced and tweaked out, though, alongside with the physics for Kart Racers 2. The drifting physics feels pretty responsive and such. However, it's clear that the physics were a little are a little heavy, but at the moment of which I still instantly picked it up and had no issues with it. I feel like it's because of the weight handling, which is kind of which is probably hitting in the game's code, but by extent, I do like the drifting physics. It is pretty much great. Not to mention the unlockables. Unlike the third game, you're able to unlock all the stuff through the base game. This is actually very, very great, and it's pretty incredible that Bantam Games and Nickelodeon and Game Mill never had that stupid idea to have unlockables be locked behind the online multiplayer wall. Pretty much, this is actually a great thing. Next up, we have the playable characters. We have some of the characters that return alongside with new incomers. There's pretty much I like the character roster, and after all, this is a major improvement over its predecessor. This is what the first game should have been, according to the reception for Nick Kart Racers 2 on Metacritic. The scores were constantly higher than those of its predecessor. Nintendo Life called it everything the original game should have been, and stated that it will appeal far more to old and new Nickelodeon fans. However, just like the first game, they criticized the game for the lack of voice acting, which had been addressed in the third game. However, unfortunately, on the technical side of things, the voice acting in the third game was great. However, on negative notes, that the characters would stop saying something else because of whatever reason, there's actually a little bug that causes them to stop talking. This pretty much an issue. The only way to have them keep on talking again is by having them hit into obstacles where the hitboxes are, or have them get hit by an item. The power-up physics in Kart Racers 2 were also pretty much great overall. I mean, the power-up physics were excellent. They're great. The jellyfish, which plays a role of the spiny shell, gets a zoom and impact on the first place racer, and then go up and then fly up top, and then have a sustained impact on the first place racer, which kind of plays in similar to how the spiny shell would have been. However, instead of the jellyfish spinning around the first place racer, it just goes up and then comes right down on that first place racer. Not to mention that I also love the 20 chiefs and 50 crew members. With this advantage, you are able to take advantage of the race and also stay ahead of the pack and make the opponents eat your dust. It's pretty impactful. AI wise, the AI can sometimes be a little cheap and a little bit unfair, and also rubber banding is actually present in that game. While it's nowhere as bad as Mario Kart Wii and 8's is rubber banding actually, nor other racing games has horrible rubber banding at the time. At least you are able to still try and catch up, as you won't be able to get far behind. However, if you get far behind, it might be a little bit too difficult to catch up. So what else there is? AI issue wise, the AI can sometimes be trying to copy what Mario Kart Wii had done. Practically, the AI thinks that you are a bug. So honestly, this is kind of very annoying. Overall, you get overall you get some unfair AI that can be very aggressive and can be very out of whack. Like, honestly, this is kind of like what Mario Kart Wii's AI would have done. But, uh, but however, what I do like about Nick Kart Racers 2 is that the developers, publisher, and Nickelodeon and Viacom have actually listened to the negative feedback that they were receiving and decided to approve upon the Kart Racers 1 into the sequel, thankfully. Not to mention that there's now an arena mode where you'll be able to do some vehicular combat against other opponents. However, likewise, you only get 2 battle arenas, which were based on Double Dare and the Kids' Choice Awards, which is kind of a little letdown. But then again, this is much better than having no arena modes on the first game. Besides that, but how is it a kart racer without a battle mode? I mean, Mario Kart, by extent, Super Mario Kart back in 1992 demonstrated on how the battle mode was done, and it was done very well. Pretty much great, high profile and very nice and very strategic. I also like how Bantam Games nailed on how to avoid the jellyfish though. And also the developers really nailed the great character models and such. Feels pretty standard, very great, and it's just overall just very accurate to the Nicktoon counterparts from their shows. And I also like the selectable track selection. Much of the tracks, including some of them from the first game, make an appearance alongside with brand new incomes of racetracks. Pretty much, I love what Nick Kart Racers 2 has to offer. I find it pretty much like Mario Kart DS, considering that that the characters have their own signature carts, or it's specific for each character. However, unfortunately, by Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway, however, much of the signature cards for certain characters didn't make the cut. What happened to some of the vehicles that certain characters drive in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix? Well. Ever since Bantam Games switched from the Vector engine to Unreal Engine 4, or much practically due to some issues regarding to models, or on other sides, they decide to trim down the kart roster, or as much of the karts that some of the characters drive were replaced with bikes. I know, kind of uncalled for, but honestly, if they kept much of the same cars from Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix while still keeping the kart customization and such, we could have a bigger kart roster. Pretty much a letdown, but what do we have anything to lose? And also, thankfully though, Nick Kart Racers 2 don't have online multiplayer unlockables at this point. That's the only major positive I have. However, what will happen next with Nickelodeon Kart Racers today? Well, as of right now, we are completely uncertain. Uncertain rise. I've been told that there's a prediction to Nick Kart Racers 4 in the works. However, I don't think it's true, as it's not been confirmed by Game Mail or Bantam Games nor Nickelodeon. honestly, if I had to be honest here, I hope Nick Kart Racers 4 would actually bring what we need for the table. Much more characters, much new tracks, and also bring back some of the tracks that didn't make the cut in Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway into the fourth installment. And besides that, much of the tracks from Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix were actually pretty much great and very well designed. And only and honestly also for the love of goodness, try to polish the fourth installment at a good decent rate, because honestly, in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3, the developers, publisher, and Nickelodeon did address and find some feedback that they were receiving and fixed much of the things that they did in the third installment. However, unfortunately, Slime Speedway is in an unpolished state, I'm afraid. Like I just mentioned in one of my previous videos, about Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 improving much of the content that was over upon the two predecessor games. They expanded the character roster alongside with other tweaks and things, including voice acting. However, unfortunately, the game is not all the way complete because the project was kind of rushed. Character opponents and AI opponents fall for the track. Not like the AI is somehow glued to parts of the track for no odd reason. Even and also some of the power up physics have been messed up. It has been messed around a notch. Not to mention whenever you're trying to jump up after you go on a ramp, some of the stunts, when sometimes and rarely the stunts doesn't register. Also some of the issues that were also been seen that I've been seeing when I play Slime Speedway really set true volume. I'm not really exaggerating. I mean it. Bumping into opponents cause you to accidentally fly out of the track, and also sometimes the floor doesn't even work. Rarely, the floor sometimes doesn't work. But honestly, in my honest personal opinion, I felt like the project was kind of rushed. Slime Speedway should have had more time in development, and not just that. Releasing the game at a horrible unpolished state can really sour the experience, and also this can cause a huge major anger to other players, including Nickelodeon fans old and new. Hopefully, Bam Games will be able to solve the problem. But again, they're still learning how to use Unreal Engine 4. So honestly, I couldn't personally blame them, because Nick Kart Racers 3 is running in Unreal Engine 4, and that's their first game in Unreal Engine 4. In conclusion, Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix really improved upon what the first game should have been like. Expanding the character roster alongside with other things to keep you occupied and more, and also having a good fair unlockable stuff. This really is a good game, to say the least. But is it perfect? Of course not. As the development team can sometimes try to learn from their previous mistakes or not. But honestly, some development teams still have not learned from their previous mistakes at all, even if they're trying hard to not make the same mistakes again. And thankfully, though, I really wish for Nickelodeon Kart Racers to still continue to improve upon what the first game really should have been like, and hopefully BAM10 Games and Game Mill and Nickelodeon will keep that momentum good, clear, and simple. If you guys want to play with your favorite Nickelodeon characters in a racing game, you should definitely check out Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 Grand Prix, or by extent Slime Speedway. Or if you want to know all about the spiritual successor to Nicktoons Racing, check out the first game of Nickelodeon Kart Racers and see what you think about the first game. And if you don't like it, check out the second game and third game. Thank you guys very much all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And make sure to check out my other channels on YouTube.